he never pampers the other person. So I've kind of been on all dating apps, tried my luck everywhere. Yeah.
So what do you think is basically missing? Like, since you have not been able to find matches, as you put, I don't think so. People are not swiping on you, but still,
Yeah. I
what do
think
you think is missing?
I think the way that I kind of look at it is like dating is more like, see, the way that I think of constructs of forming relationships is kind of very different how I think about most of the first chemistry that happens is basically on the profile of the person, that how interesting is the profile, right? And then the bigger challenge that happens is those profiles genuinely don't have a genuinity to it. Like the problem was not that you kind of put it out that I'm not getting matches. I used to get matches, but not the relevant ones. So once again, that's not the problem. The problem is curation of supply. The problem is not supply. Just just so I clarify that. So yeah. So I think the reason that I kind of couldn't or lost interest in that particular space was that it's just like a landing page of information where somebody's talking about that I know this, I like this, I have some snippet around it, and people have tried multiple gamification experiments like putting videos over there, etc. But it never builds that depth. That should I invest 1.5 hours and go on a date, unless and until the reason is very superficial, that I've liked the person, just मेरे को बंदा ही या बंदी ही अच्छी लग गई कि तो तब मैं particularly जाऊंगा. But I think over time, because I've kind of dated in the last 7 years twice or thrice, I kind of realized that it's about forming a deeper relationship, then effectively looking out for like casual meetings and stuff like that. So I think that's the reason I kind of it didn't work out for me. Like I couldn't figure out that whether what is written is actually the depth of the person or not. Yeah.
Okay, so the problem comes from the curation bit, like the it doesn't match like the expectations and how it turns out. Like there's too much ice that doesn't get break. I feel
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the problem. So what do you see? Like where do you see then? Like since you're saying it's this, and I think so. The market is just like this. Like now we have 10 apps that just do matching, and nobody's trying to actually solve the further problem. Or like, so where do you see in 5-10 years? Where is this industry going?
See, honestly speaking, the way that I look at it is that dating should not be like an instant gratification mechanism. It should not be like that I have a myriad of information and there's a chance to it. There's a chance to it that, okay, this person seems interesting, so why don't I do a right swipe? See, the way that you look at any of the social platforms, right, or social, generally any of the marketplaces, or the kind of the way that I'm trying to process that, any app that has effective some volume has some sense of network effect, right? What I mean by network effect is heavily tied to social capital. There's this axis, utility versus social capital. Utility mein dating apps are very high because obviously you're finding a partner, but there is no social capital. Social capital basically means why should I interact with this person? Like in LinkedIn, like people follow me because they feel that there's some utility to the product management content. We can relate to this person. We can consistently follow and then probably do a DM and say that how do I talk? How do I effectively reach out to? And they have a lot of sense of who Shravan is, at least on the superficial side, on the social media side of things, right? Dating for some reason has not put that concept out. Now, there can be two reasons to it. The first reason is if there is an effort to an process, right? It's not like shadi, right? Shadi mein tum effort dalte ho. Like you effectively put some effort that I want to know this person, I want to spend time and then make a conscious call because it's a decision that kind of influences the like next 10, 15 years or 20 years, at least in India, because divorce is not a concept that kind of is widely prevalent, right?
Yes.
In dating, it doesn't work like that, right? So if you kind of make it slightly deeper and tougher to interact with, right, then you might lose depth of users because users will lose interest. यार मेरे को fight मारनी पड़ रही है यार मेरे को ये करना पड़ रहा है. I have to play a game. I have to be part of something, right? So that is a challenge. The second challenge is if you don't do it, then obviously curation will be a problem. It's a heavy problem. So you are kind of in एक तरफ कुआं एक तरफ खाई बीच में लटके असलम भाई. So that वाला वो वाला फंडा चल रहा है. So I think the novel concept there would be that you're part of an activity by design and you're consciously doing that activity, and through that activity I'm able to figure out that okay, this person might be the right fit for me, this person might be the right fit for me, right? So I didn't come into the activity thinking that I have to do this activity and then I'll get a date at the end of it, but rather I enjoyed a certain gamification experience because I liked that experience, and then I realized it's like if I have to find flatmates for me, I would ideally find people with the same interest, and probably in a football game I'm playing football and I say, "Arey yaar, ye londa to mere jaisa hi hai yaar. He's just like me. Why not yaar? Do you have an open space? I'll just." Or we're talking about startups. Like my previous flatmate, when I moved from Sun City in Bangalore to Adarsh Farm Retreats, was the very same reason, because I used to work in Blackbuck, and there was someone who has to discuss startups with and products with and consistently do this. And then one day he just picks up the call and says, "Dude, mera flat khali hai, aaja." And I had, like, it was a no-brainer for me, but because I knew the person, I knew I had good synergy with that person. I think that is the way that you build across. And another thing is that this element of social capital has to happen. If it doesn't happen, the problem with most networks is like, see, why do you think a app? I'll give you a very interesting
Yes.
synergy of it, right? There was an app called Prisma, which
Hmm.
used to make every photo look very beautiful. And there is Instagram, right? Where again you put filters and you can make any photo beautiful, right? But why did Instagram work and Prisma didn't work? There's a conscious reason. The conscious reason is Prisma did everything from the product side. So even if Arya takes a bad picture or Shravan takes a good picture, there's absolutely no difference because you are making both pictures look equally good.
Hmm.
So you lose sense of this social capital that I put an effort so I could be better, right? That is something that was not there. But Instagram, it's still the creator which kind of thinks of the creativity and everything. Filter is like a 20% cut on top of it. So Harshvi's creativity would actually make him successful. And he will feel socially very imbibed that I am different from other creators. The same thing has to happen in dating also, right? That I am doing something and I figured out that out of this all myriad of right swipes, right swipes, right swipes, these five people genuinely are interested in the same things that I am interested in. And I equally, the same feedback goes to those people also, that this is how you make choices, and those are better curated choices, and somehow their relationships forming relationship. That is the concept. That is the reason there was this concept of going on offline dates or doing blind dates, because the reason is that once you actually be in person, you can actually not put some sort of a like commitment to it, and you just get to know the person. That is the reason this offline concept was actually there, but it kind of went away in online. So I think that's the future, where you can preform some activity level curation or gamify that activity and then try to figure out interests on top of it as a data layer. Yeah.
Correct. Like makes a lot of sense. Like when even when we right now are trying, like what we have identified in past couple of weeks is that even though we have events and like we have dating ideas, that social element or the social aspect of it, like right now F1 is every Sundays of F1 night, or like the entire IPL thing is happening this entire, and it's a very great easy ice breaking session. And especially like like people bond over sport. There's nothing in this country, I think so, that makes people bond like that. So some, even if like when people are not matching or swiping as such, maybe there's some kind of quiz that they are taking that just gives us a data insight of like how that person is, or like what are their likings, and like can we play with that kind of data. So I think so that element, like even when you're not matching or chatting with someone, if can we retain people on the app, can be a good question.
That
And
is one. And another aspect that I genuinely feel is very, very important is that because dating as an activity is genuinely physical, because presence of the person is very, very different than if you do something online,
agree.
right? So the point is that we have to start building deeper experiences online which can replicate the offline experience in some way. Most people have tried to do it. Like there was this app called Hinge. They started doing video calls, but people think just video calls se ho jata hai. Nahi hota वैसे. It doesn't work that way, right? So you have to build far more deeper experiences. Can there be a video call in which there is an activity which you do together,
Correct.
right? And you try to figure out that how good the person is or not, or there can be n number of ways. So there has to be like a vertical depth to the dating industry, and also a data layer on top of it, which kind of makes it very, very interesting to do experiments. And you can take those experiments in like sports, healthcare, education, wherever you want to kind of talk about deeper topics. Urdu शायरी, मेरे को हमेशा से मैं कोशिश करता रहता कि कोई लड़की मिले जो शायरी करे मेरे साथ, but मैं कभी मिल ही नहीं पाया. मेरे को लोग बोलते थे भाई you are old. Who are you talking about?
No fair fans for you.
So yeah, yeah. और एंड यार गाइस, जो भी जिसने भी कॉल ज्वाइन की यार, शक्ल दिखा दो अपनी यार, ऐसे तो मत करो. सबसे बुरी शक्ल मेरी है. तो आई वांट यू गाइस टू काइंड ऑफ प्लीज शोकेस योर फेसेस. दैट्स सुपर लवली.
Please. Yes. So
Sahur has started doing it. Very
yes.
nice, man. Very nice. Yeah, awesome.
So for safety purposes, like our moderator panels can share the video and audio, but like the participants we restrict because there is like just for safety purposes.
Got
But
it.
anyways, if somebody wants to come and interact with you, we'll be doing that as well shortly. So I have bunch of ideas. People were very excited, and they did send some ideas that I would love to read. Like one of the person in the app has said like. Uh, I had read someone like for more authentic experiences, we should link Aadhaar cards with our dating profiles. Do you think?
ये एक्चुअली प्रॉब्लम है भाई. मैं सच बता रहा हूँ. ये एक्चुअली प्रॉब्लम है. डेटिंग एप्स पे स्कैम बहुत होते हैं. मैं सच बता रहा हूँ. नॉट दैट आई वाज प्रिवी टू इट. Again, I'm just saying as a distant third party observer that there are a lot of scams that happen. So it's an actual, see, on a very genuine product note, it is an actual problem. It's an actual problem. Which, so if there is a way of authentication, identity detection, that's a good idea actually, because it solves the problem of curation to a certain level. To a certain level, yes.
That like someone is saying that people usually like, I think so this is a very good pain point that we people ignore, but like people have said if in comment sections like in contact list, like you usually find your friends, right, like mutuals, and then you feel awkward ki why are they seeing my profile, or like it gets awkward. So if we can block those users who are on our contact list or like our friends contact list. So
Got it. Got it. Block those users who are in the contact list. ये यार
yeah,
ऐसा क्यों करोगे तुम? मैं समझ
like
नहीं पा रहा.
people are
Unless
still, I
you
think so
also like
dating,
the same person.
I think so dating is still a taboo. So like I guess वो awkwardness हो जाती है कि like अरे इसने देख लिया profile, या they are like why like मेरा secret reveal हो जाएगा कि I am using these apps. I think so it's coming from that place.
Okay. Well, I think it's a, it might be niche, but I think at least most of my friends, maybe in tier 2, tier 3 cities, it might happen. We might validate that, but
Hmm.
बैंगलोर में तो एटलीस्ट ऐसा नहीं होता. मतलब like that's what I've seen. I don't know what गुड़गांव में क्या होता है, क्योंकि I've been in Bangalore for the last 7.5 years. But वहाँ तो नहीं है ऐसे. I don't think वैसा कोई scene है. But yeah, but I think from a, see, any one thing that I want to kind of again point
Hmm.
out is that product management or building any service has to come from a very strong user need, not from a want. Wants and needs are different, right? Need is something that I may not be able to articulate, but still have that problem, right? Want is something that I feel solves something for me in a certain way, which might be viable. Like my want is to have a Tesla since the last 5 years. I didn't have it, right? I don't have a Tesla, right? So the point is that my need might be to get a transportation service from one place to another place in the seamless, in the most effective possible way, in whatever. So I think that is one way you start looking at ideas. But again, interesting thing to know that people think like that. Yeah.
So this is one question, like this is not a feature like what we did. So like we usually we saw that around 11 p.m. there's a peak in our usage, and like we wanted to send notifications, right? And like we had also created, like Harshveer wanted to create an authentic sound for the notification, and we got it done and everything. But then our other founder Deva was like कि रात को 11 बजे सब छुप के ऐप यूज करते हैं या पेरेंट्स से. So we did not implement it, and like that is like that's the level of empathy we want to bring into our app. But then again it comes at a cost ki like the notification might get ignored or something like that. So how and where do you strike that balance ki like what the user needs and like what is viable? So
I think
something on the.
I think it is something that which has to be like, it's a user in, see, dating, for that matter, you might have to start looking at data that way, right? But what you have to understand is there are certain patterns of when people use dating apps. It's generally at night, right? Or generally on a weekend or whatever and whatnot, right? Not through the day, right?
Yeah.
At that point of time, if somebody is actively looking for it, probably, right? Probably he will do it every day by design, right? The only
Correct.
notification that the person needs is that you got a match or not. So I don't think it's the reminder part of the notification is actually needed. Because if I am in the zone, I will do it, right? That's the thing. The only thing that you need to remind me is that I actually got a match. एक्चुअली मैं बहुत देर से कोशिश कर रहा था, मुझे कोई मैच मिल गया है. So I think implementing that would be very interesting, and seeing that how does that work across, or somebody is viewing your profile or whatever and whatnot. Those high intent notifications. See, people who are doing it sporadically, any which way, unke liye more than the notification, because notification is like an ingestion part. It's the experience that should bring them back. That I liked using the experience. I liked using the app. Like,
Correct.
for example, like some random shitty app builds a very strong notification service or something like that for some sort of experience, do not come back. I should see the value there, right? Notifications are only to nudge the user for something that the user might find important and missed. I generally am not a very strong believer of sending out notifications to do an activity. The point is the app has to be good enough that the user consciously comes back, right? PhonePe doesn't send me a notification. It's a need-based app. PhonePe doesn't send me a notification in general. Rarely I get a notification from PhonePe. I still go and do my transaction on PhonePe because I find the need there. So I think when somebody is in that zone, right, the experience is what would be the differentiator, rather than you thinking on the lines कि यार notification को अगर अच्छा बनाना है, delighter बनाना है, to build that notification which uniquely identifies and says that in the myriad of 50 notifications that I get from 50 different apps, I don't miss a notification in which I got a match. That is something very different, right? कि I remember, like, हमेशा ये notice किया होगा आपने, sales companies में ना एक bell लगाई जाती है, और जब भी
Yeah.
sale होती है ना, तो
Correct.
टन
Correct.
टन, और वो bell सब notice करते हैं.
Yes.
वो bell इसीलिए notice करते हैं क्योंकि उनको पता होता है कि अब यार पैसा आया है, अकाउंट में पैसा हिट किया है. That feeling should feel like, it should feel like that feeling. And you can also do kind of different types of notifications. I'll tell you how. The way is that if you can build some sort of a curation funnel, na, ki, these are the people I genuinely like. These are the people, ठीक है यार, मतलब हो गया तो I probably might go on a date. These are the people, ठीक है, मेरे को ठीक लग रहे हैं, but maybe not, right? If somebody gets a specific notification for something kind like a super like or something like that, तब तो किल ही हो जाएगा गेम. तब तो बंदा आके सबसे पहले यही पे आपको सब कुछ छोड़ के वही करेगा. This is what I want to do, right? So you can do layers of notification there, but don't do it for driving engagement. Bad experience. मतलब कभी नहीं करना चाहिए. People hate that, right?
Makes a lot of sense. Like, just when it's needed, like it's needed. Else,
Yeah.
it's just a way of showing your presence.
Yeah.
So, does moderators? Does anybody want to come up, or shall we continue? Okay. So yes, yes. We can invite like Deva if you would like to promote someone to the stage. By the way, till people are coming on stage. Okay, Ritik is here. Hi, Ritik.
Oh God. मुझे मेरे से बात करने के लिए इधर आना पड़ गया. He's a student in my squad. But any which ways. हाँ भाई ऋतिक, बता मेरे भाई.
Hello, am I visible?
Yeah, you're visible.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hello, Tikku Bhaiya. So I would like to tell this story. I applied for a product management role in a Mingout, but I got rejected.
भाई क्या है यार, क्यों कर रहा है ये सब? But ठीक है.
I should say this, that I love the concept of Mingout. They have cracked the understanding of attraction, or the science of attraction, at the very first principle, that it only comes with the proximity.
Okay.
Yeah, which I love. And the second thing, and if it is taking on online space or an online platform, they have increases the intensity as compared to the other player, Tinder, Bumble.
टिंडर बम्बल भी तो प्रॉक्सिमिटी करते हैं ना यार.
एक्चुअली है ना, पहली बार है ना जब अगर मिलते हैं तो टिंडर बम्बल पर उनकी प्रोफाइल देखते हैं, राइट? बट इन इन मिंग आउट हम एक इवेंट पर मिलते हैं.
ओके.
जो कि एक ऑनलाइन में इंटेंसिटी को है ना इंक्रीज करता है.
हाँ मतलब it's a activity driven thing. Yeah. It's an intent.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's why I love this app. Second thing, it should work on the security part as well. कि एक आधार वेरिफिकेशन होना चाहिए, इवन उनका एक इंटरव्यू तक होना चाहिए कि एक्चुअल में वो पर्सन रियल है या नहीं है.
मतलब मुझे लग रहा है तेरे साथ हुआ है जो तुम
नहीं, मेरे साथ नहीं हुआ, बट मैंने काफी कुछ पढ़ा है इसके बारे में. मैंने खुद एक फेक प्रोफाइल यूज करके अपने फ्रेंड को
Yeah,
परेशान किया था ऐसे.
didn't I tell you? He just agreed to it. That भी हुआ है इसके साथ.
दिस शुड बी डन. सो या ये दो फीचर ही मैं बोलूंगा जो पहले जो मिंगआउट का काम किया वो काफी तगड़ा है. बाकी ये एक सिक्योरिटी के लिए इस पे कुछ स्टेप्स होने चाहिए, क्योंकि इंडिया में काफी इसके रिगार्डिंग स्कैम होते हैं.
Fine. ये बात मतलब I completely agree there that there should be a way of verifying profiles for sure, but I think it comes at a cost of growth, right? So they will have to build structures through which, yeah, why is my voice echoing by any chance? Hello? Yeah, Ritik, can you just mute yourself? Uh, so I think the larger thing is that how do you optimize for growth, right? Because if they make a very strong security verification system, they have to put across some sort of value. The problem with verification is that तुम कहाँ पे verify करते हो? Where do you do KYC? The primary question is there, right? Why do you do KYC? You do KYC in places where you feel that post the KYC, I will get access to a very strong, profound experience, which is very relevant to me. Like I'll give you a very simple example. In Paytm, तुम 1000-2000 रुपए की transaction कर सकते हो. But the moment you say that I want to go beyond from 2000 to 10,000 or maybe 1 lakh, right? Because it's a very nice experience, I have to put out a KYC and I realize that the value is that because the core experience I have kind of experienced, right? The problem with dating is that unless and until the value only becomes apparent when you find a date, or else you are on like 50 different apps. You're doing everywhere right swipe, left swipe, right swipe, whatever. Jo bhi kar rahe ho, right? So the fundamental moot point is that how do you differentiate your core experience while you're even coming into the app, right? And you kind of start this feeling, this perceived value that I will get my desired partner or desired date with a certain level of accuracy, right? With a certain level of commitment to the fact that there's a good chance that I will find the right person, right? And then only we would want to verify your profile. A lot of people, because people going, why do we want to put that effort? क्यों मारना है मुझे? क्यों करना है? Like why do I put this effort of sharing my Aadhaar, sharing my information, all of those things, right? So they will have to kind of structure it that way, because most other platforms, if they start putting it that verification structure in the very beginning, how will they grow supply? How will they grow demand? That's the question. So they will have to solve for that. I don't know how they do it. There might be bunch of ideas here and there which you can experiment with. Simplify KYC structures. A lot of things are there, right? But that is the major challenge. People would put effort only when they realize value. Like a simple example is when you join any online community, there is some version of value which is outside the community which trickles you towards the community. Maybe there's a great guy, there's a great creator, there's a great person, there's an Instagram, there's a star, there's a certain kind of event that is happening, whatever and whatnot, right? So one of the approaches is that you come up with this kind of a thing, that the backbenchers kind of a thing, in which you start bringing great people. And I would at that point of time make like larger sessions and consistently do that, right? And I want to be part of it. So that is something that you can effectively do. Yeah.
And then thank you, Shami.
Thank you, Ritik. Finally, we meet. Now I realize that we have also chatted.
Yeah.
Anyways, also, Tikku Bhaiya should be officially your handle everywhere, please.
Yeah, please don't call me Tikku Bhaiya.
Okay.
नहीं यार बोल दो कोई दिक्कत नहीं, not a problem.
Anyway, so like I like one of the great ideas like that we saw is like what if we do it reverse, like there are question ke answers pehle and photos are getting revealed slowly and eventually as the conversation starts, and like that is not your first bait when you are matching with someone. Like what do you think, what's the viability of
What
this?
do you mean by reverse? Can you
Like so
explain?
like there's profile first, like the bio is first and the questions that been asked unke answers are there, and then there are photos as soon as you start, like there can be only one photo, like photo is the last, that's not the first thing you see in a profile while you are
So what you're saying is let's kind of
personality first
distant,
put. Yeah.
distance physical attraction.
Yeah.
Let's distance that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. See, again, it's a very dichotomy, right? Most
Hmm.
people date because physical attraction is the first thing. That's why they date, right? So that's the reason experience-led things make far more relevant than sequential discovery of things.
Correct.
When I am with someone who I like the experience with, like watching a movie,
Hmm.
thinking of discussing something, playing a game, right? Discussing poetry, whatever. I couldn't find anyone, by the way, discussing poetry, but any which ways, my problems. Hashtag Shravan Bhaiya's problems. Unfortunately, I have Bhaiya associated with it. Then it makes it even bad. But any which ways. So the point is that experience-led structures make a lot of sense, but sequential discovery of, again, yeah, most log instant gratification करते हैं.
Okay, makes sense. Anyways, Kruti is here. So, hi, Kruti. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Yes, please
Hi,
proceed.
hi, hi. Yeah, hi. So the idea which I had was building on to what you introduced earlier, right? कि लोग आते क्यों हैं क्योंकि उनको experience चाहिए होता है. So my idea was that we categorize people, or maybe we ask questions on what kind of experience you are looking up to. Like
Yeah.
when you're coming on a platform, what is that you're looking up to, and what is your past experience been like? Like someone could be very new in the dating game or probably in the online dating game, and probably categorize us, in 2 to 3 cohorts or something like that, like 2 to 3 groups or something like that, and then we match people. So,
Okay.
what do you think?
Got it. So what you're saying is, like, for example, I get into this dating app and let me visualize this. I get inside and I see that what do you like? So I like playing games. I like music. I like jazz music, whatever it is, right? And I kind of click there, and then you ask me something on like, what has your previous experience been like? What do you mean by that? Expound on that. What do you mean by what have
Oh,
previous experience?
no. So it's like on the introductory level. So the question what I'm asking is, आपका experience क्या है? Like how new you are to this online dating game, and what are your expectations from this online dating game? So I'm just looking at it from a game perspective. So please excuse me for that. But if I were to come on a game, I would just be like a beginner, advanced, intermediate. We have those levels. So
Okay.
something of that sort. So someone, let's just say for me, for example, for me, I just got like a downloaded the app, like a dating app for the first time in my life yesterday, because I saw कि अच्छा मुझे I'm getting a chance to interact with you. So this is like a completely new experience for me. So I would be on a beginner level. Someone who's been doing it like for 2, 3 times would be on an intermediate level. So he or she would know where he is in the game. And same goes for the advanced level guys.
No, but
And similarly,
my question still is, what do you mean by advanced? Like, my end outcome is finding a partner. My do you are you trying to tell me that my end outcome might be different because you're a beginner? You might not want a partner, but you would ideally want someone to interact with and create a relationship.
yes,
In that sense,
yes, yes, in that sense. And then another, like two questions, like there are two parts of it. कि आपका experience कितना है और आपके expectations भी कैसे है. Like there are some people right from the beginning are into the casual scene, and there are some people that like right from the beginning are looking into someone just to interact with, just like a
got
friend
it,
zone thing. And there are some people who are into different space altogether.
got it,
So maybe if we can categorize like 3, 4 broad categories only, not too many permutations, but 3, 4 general top of the pyramid categories. So probably we can go ahead
got it. So
with that.
so I'll tell you the challenge there is that I would say that idea is good. Bumble tried to do something like this. Bumble for Business. They actually started doing a different version of it, right? In which they said that the outcome might be different. The challenge, I'll tell you what the challenge is. The challenge is most people don't have their outcomes figured out. Like, I'll tell you how. Like, if I want a friend, right? There might be one lonely night, I am free, and I feel like यार कोई बंदा मिल जाए जिससे मैं interact कर सकता हूँ, and I probably have a discussion with, right? I would not actively look for it, but for a partner and a date, I would actively look for it. Like, I want to date someone. I'm alone. I'm single from the last 12 months or 10 months or whatever. The problem there becomes is that it's not about the engagement of the users would be very hard to predict. It'll be very hard to predict. You would not be able to create a very curated network. Like, why do you see that there are a lot of partners or a lot of people on Tinder who specifically mention this on their profile, that I have come on this app after 6 months and I'm going to delete it in 15 days. A lot of people kind of write like that, right? The problem with this entire ecosystem is that in that journey of finding a date, you will find someone duly engaged. But if you make different versions of it, which is fair, you might expand your TAM, total addressable market. But the problem is that how deeply interactive the user would be is very hard to predict. How do you figure out that finding a friend, how important it is for someone to find a friend? But the important part of finding a date is relatively figured out. हाँ, मैं ये कर सकता हूँ कि dating में मैं ये बोल सकता हूँ कि casual dating करनी है या फिर तुम्हें सही में partner चाहिए. That is something that I can figure out. कि हाँ यार कि what is your agenda? I will not even show you profiles who are casually looking for just hookups and stuff like that. Right? I'm not interested there. But to move out of this segment of moving from dating to friendships is a very different ball game. Very, very different ball game. Like it's very hard to build products in that expectation because the value coefficient is less. How do you define a friend? What do you mean by a friend, right? How actively will you find a friend and go and meet that person? It really depends on person to person, right? Not that. So the first part of the idea, yes, there can be levels in the dating scene itself, which is a predictable structure. But if you move from the dating scene to a non-dating scene, it's a different approach. It's a different approach. You will have to think about the persona. You will have to understand what their needs are. What do they want? How do they figure out? Then, in order to make it sustainable as a business, whether they will pay for the service, whether they will not pay for the service. Dating के लिए भाई अगर तुम मुझे ये बोल के दोगे यार कि नहीं यार श्रवण अब तुम्हारे लिए 12 महीने के बाद I will figure out a right person for you. I'll pay like $40. I don't care. So that's the thing. Yeah. But great idea actually.
Yeah. One more follow-up question. I'm not sure if you've seen the movie Her, where there's the entire piece about a voice bot and the guy dating the voice bot.
Yeah.
So it's something like that really possible. Like it's a sci-fi, given that's a sci-fi, but it's something like that really possible. कैसे जब तक मुझे कोई एक right match नहीं मिल रहा, तब तक I have someone to interact with, someone whom I'm just constantly being in touch with.
It actually happens.
Like
so if you go to Japan, right? There's this interesting structure of thought. So there's this interesting problem that people have started. People have started alienating themselves. So you will find millions of people. Like there is this interesting, I think, how do they call it, a disorder in which 2 million people have just locked them up in a room and they don't want to go out. That's it. That's there. I would tell you the name of the disorder. It's actually there in Japan. So people have started creating virtual experiences. That what is the virtual experience which will satiate me in a certain way? I think the way that I kind of look at it is that yes, to a certain persona of people, somebody who is depressed or probably is in a different structure where some sort of interaction brings the person up. It makes a lot of sense. Like that's why you would see there were multiple apps that were created, like Replica and other apps, where people started creating mental health partners. That you would talk to the bot would talk back to you. You will have some sort of voice mechanism, right? All of those things, right? So it to a certain persona of users, it definitely makes sense, right? But to a larger set of people, I think it's a very physical experience. You cannot believe that unless that physical proximity is there with the person, right? You would not be able to, just because you're not a bot. A bot is bereft of emotions, right? You are not. You're not. I might simulate those emotions, but eventually, if I know that it's a bot, that subconsciously stays here, right? That subconsciously stays here, right? The thing is, you can play a game, right? In which I don't even know who the other person is, and a lot of companies actually do that. They actually build bots on the other side and say, "Do you know this supermodel has liked you?" And this actually happens, which is so wrong at so many levels. But the point that I'm trying to put across is when you already know that the outcome is like, let me put it this way, reverse it this way. Your father tomorrow tells you कि बेटा मैं तुम्हारी नौकरी गूगल में लगा दूंगा, गूगल का जो वाइस प्रेसिडेंट है वो मेरा दोस्त है. How uncomfortable would you be to join that company? Because you will start feeling कि मेरा खुद का तो एफर्ट ही नहीं है यार, मैंने तो फाइट ही नहीं मारी. That's the whole point. That there you see that there's a bot. Now the other person is talking to you, you know that it's a bot. That's why she's talking to me that way, or he's talking to me that way. Will not help. But yes, to people who might have some sort of problems or some sort of issues in which they're not able to communicate, or maybe you want to prepare someone, like, and the education vertical of dating, how to date, there it might be very helpful as an idea. That can I build a dating manual? That this is how you should date. These are the right expectations to a certain kind of partner to make an effective date. There it can be a very good idea. Harshveer, note karo yaar, interesting चीज है ये interesting.
The disorder is
Okay,
called
thank you.
Huh?
I was saying that it's called hikikomori. If you
Hikikomori, yes.
yes,
Hikikomori, yes, absolutely. Yes, it's called that. Yeah.
yeah. Like since you were talking, I think so it's a good idea also to correlate. I guess Kushal is here. So, anyways, I was just completing sentence. Good idea to correlate. Like, what's your preference? Like, you're looking for something casual or serious, and in that level, we can then take their expectation. Like for casual, the gatekeeping can be lower, like just a profile verification, and like we can go further into like how much they are investing in the time on the app, so that we can have quality profiles. Kushal, hi Kushal. If you could unmute yourself and put on your video, Kushal.
मेरे को भी वही लग रहा है ये भाई
Okay, I think so. Kushal is facing some technical issues. We have our next user, Sarvagya, our very own mingler. Sarvagya, would you like to ask the question?
Audible and visible.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Shravan. How are you?
I'm doing it. Okay, man. Thanks a lot.
I mean, the concept of the session was that we had to come up with the features which we would like on dating apps. But I came up with with another app after I onboarded a session. How about a dating app just for product managers?
Okay. Dating app for product managers.
No, this is meant to be a joke because a
All right.
product. I don't think a product manager can date another product manager.
Uh, I think to a certain extent it is. How do I put it? Right. Like that. There
they,
must
I
be.
think both won't have times
I
and
mean,
calendars matching at
I
all.
think I think a PM opposite to a PM, they'll end up criticizing their features. So
Actually, I had
that
written this
that
book long back कि uh, माँ बोलती है बेटे को कि बेटा एक तुम्हारे लिए रिश्ता आया है लड़की भी प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर है तो लड़का रिस्पॉन्ड करता है मम्मा लेकिन अगर दोनों लोग वेले बैठेंगे तो काम कौन करेगा तो समथिंग लाइक दैट एनी व्हिच वेज आई थिंक हाँ मतलब दैट इज समथिंग दैट डेफिनेटली इज बट मैंने एक सच्चाई बताऊं प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर्स एंड अप डेटिंग मोस्टली प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर्स दैट इज द ट्रूथ with however many jokes that you make because one of the principle of building a good relationship is not just attraction, it's also empathy towards the other person. That can I like I'll tell you why most relationships in certain sense don't work out, right? When there are two partners in general, अगर मैं बोलूंगा यार कि मैं 11 घंटे काम कर रहा हूँ मैं 12 घंटे काम कर रहा हूँ राइट द अदर पर्सन ऐसा क्या है यार ऐसी क्या बड़ी बात है यार कि बंदा कर रहा है 11 घंटे मेरे लिए 2 घंटे नहीं निकाल सकता मेरे लिए 1 घंटा नहीं निकाल सकता जब तक दोनों का एम्बिशन लेवल राइट कंपैशन लेवल एंड एम्पैथी लेवल पैरेलल नहीं है दैट्स व्हाई यू नेवर सी
hmm,
दैट you would definitely see this जहां पे तुम देखोगे कि the intent of involvement towards a particular thing has to be similar it's not about fame कि तुम ऐसे देखोगे कि जैसे कोई बंदा है जो डॉक्टर है अब डॉक्टर उतना फेमस जरूरी नहीं है और एक सेलिब्रिटी है लेकिन इंटेंट ऑफ इन्वॉल्वमेंट उतना ही है एक बंदा भी 14 घंटा काम कर रहा है दूसरा बंदा भी 14 घंटे काम कर रहा है there will be a lot of respect so the quality of time will be very good even if it's 1 hour the problem is where the intent of work is less right their problems arise. Like I'll give you my personal example. The way that I've dated, right? Most people end up saying, "भाई तेरे पास time ही नहीं है." जो सच्चाई है, जो बिल्कुल सच्चाई बात है. लेकिन the people who are with me, who understand my work, right? They rather cherish the 2 hours that I give them, rather than कंटेम्पलेटिंग ऑन दिस लाइंस कि यार श्रवण ने टाइम नहीं दिया, या श्रवण ने टाइम नहीं दिया भाई, इतना क्या बिजी आ गए. तो ये सच्चाई है लाइफ की. मतलब लाइक मोस्ट रिलेशनशिप्स somehow function in a very different siloed structure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Yeah, if I move on to my question, I think at the very start of the session, you highlighted the importance of social capital. Now,
Yeah.
I think we got a very interesting feedback from one of our users that most of the apps, dating apps currently, they are focusing on a lot of one-on-one deliberate interaction,
Yeah.
whereas there is a lack of a social feature or a community feature in general, wherein you don't push someone in front of someone, whereas you push them in a community of folks which are like-minded, which can empathize with each other, and then you find someone for yourself.
Yeah.
So, how do you think a dating app can achieve that sort of a that sort of community engagement? कि एक मतलब we are not pushing our user towards another user, but we're pushing that our user in a community which is safe, protected, and filled with like-minded folks, so that one can find the person who they are most comfortable with.
वैसा ही होता है ना. मतलब रियल लाइफ एक्सपीरियंस वैसे. ट्यूशन में क्यों तुम्हें अपने सबसे ज्यादा पार्टनर्स मिलते हैं? You find your first girlfriends or first boyfriends in your tuition class. Why do you do that?
Definitely, exactly.
It is very
क्योंकि
relevant.
वही है.
सेम एज ग्रुप, सेम सोचने का तरीका, टीचर की ऐसी तैसी करनी है, समझ में नहीं आ रहा. बैक बेंचर्स एसोसिएट विद बैक बेंचर्स, पढ़ाकू लोग पढ़ाकुओं के साथ एसोसिएट करते हैं, स्पोर्ट्स पीपल एसोसिएट विद स्पोर्ट्स पीपल. तो सोशल कैपिटल का बेसिकली मतलब ही यही है कि यार कि आई एम डूइंग एन एक्टिविटी व्हिच गिव्स मी हैप्पीनेस इन सम वे, right? The other person finds happiness in the same way. So I can make this contemplation and inference that we will be able to enjoy time together because we like the same things in some way, right? That is a very interesting contemplation कि यार ये इस वजह से मैं मेरे पास बात. और it's also an ice breaker. यार मैं बात कर सकता हूँ कि यार you like probably punk music, punk rock, I like punk rock. So let's talk about what you like, what you don't like. So I think rather than pushing head-on interactions where I ask you, like तुम्हें क्या पसंद है, वो मेरे को बोला तुम्हें क्या पसंद है, और in general I'll tell you what, most of the times when you have किसी से कोई interaction direct हो रही है ना, and if you somehow have some level of attraction towards that person, you're already mind blown. तुम्हारा brain वैसे ही काम नहीं कर रहा क्योंकि तुम्हें उस बंदे को impress करना है, तो तुम पे already pressure है. तो most of your answers will be typecasted. यारे मैं कुछ ऐसा बोलूं कि अगला बंदा इंप्रेस हो जाए, not the person that you are, right? On the contrary, if you're doing a collaborative activity, you will be you. You'll be authentic, right? You don't have the primary motive to find a date. You know that कि मुझे enjoy करना है. उस experience के बाद कौन सी ऐसी जनता है जो उस experience को मेरे जितना ही enjoy करती है? Would love to do that. That'll be super lovely. So that is the element of social capital that has not been explored. But the challenge there is, how do you figure out then it becomes a marketplace? Because you will have to find people for sports, you will for music, for arts, for mathematics, etc. And then it becomes a very broken strategy. क्योंकि अब मान लो हर्षवीर को बुलाना है. हर्षवीर उर्दू पोएट्री वाले कितने लोग होंगे? 1000, 2000, 10,000, 50,000, right? The messages bifurcate. It's hard to keep the messaging aligned. So it is that's from a distribution side, it's a hard thing to do. From an experience side, it's a very good thing. And both of the things are very important. एक किसी भी अच्छे प्रोडक्ट के पास अगर प्रोडक्ट अच्छा और डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन नहीं है तब भी फेल है. अगर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन और प्रोडक्ट अच्छा नहीं है तब भी फेल है. It's like two legs of a human. Any of those two things are not there, you'll not be able to walk. So it's a hard problem, but yes, it's a novel idea. That is the reason. It's not like यार कि Match.com या Tinder या किसी ने सोचा ही नहीं होगा इस बारे में. मतलब they are $1 billion companies यार, उनको समझ है उस चीज की. So that is where you will have to put out a unique structure कि मैं अपने को कैसे position करूँ. That's a trial and error kind of a thing that you will have to consistently do. Maybe you enter a very large market. Maybe you do it like, yeah, I want to first focus on music, right? Dating app for music enthusiasts, kind of do that, and then figure out sub networks over there and things like that.
Cool, yeah, but I think because the community aspect is not just very important for authenticity point of view, but it's also important for a comfort point of view. That वही बात है ना, the moment you have to talk to someone from the intent of dating, you end up becoming very conscious, and the moment you are like हम दोस्त हैं, you are you are as natural as you should be. So I think, distribution. Any suggestions you have for distribution? If uh,
वही है, तुम्हें लैंड एंड एक्सपैंड अप्रोच बहुत ज्यादा मैटर करती है इसमें. लैंड एंड एक्सपैंड ये होता है कि you build a common network and then build sub networks. Sub networks should be in the app. Then the common net, the way of associating with that, it's like, think of how you are making a streaming OTT platform. OTT platform promises great content and pushes that what is the kind of personalized content. But once you enter the OTT platform, you see that I like horror, you like thriller, somebody likes romance. So you will have to build sub networks. So take a large category, try to bring people there, and try to put it across. But don't do too many things at the same time. Like you say that हमें सबके लिए ही open कर दूंगा, and then I will tell out of 50 categories people to select what they like. Doesn't make sense. Focus on 5, 6, 7 and do them right. And then probably scale horizontally. Once you build good engagement in those categories, then you move to ancillary categories. So one of the things that I think I consciously told Harshveer also is, and the founders in general is, see, getting product market fit is truly important, and it is not important that you achieve that at 1 million users. It doesn't matter. Even if you do that for 50,000 users, you've nailed it. You know what approach works. Then the next problem is of growth. That's a separate thing, right? But if your experience is truly good, things will scale. The problem with growth without product market fit is that people will eventually end up losing interest in the app. It'll not happen. Yeah.
Anyways, thanks, Arvagya. We have Kushal, who has been like, I think so. It's fixed now. His technical glitches.
Yeah,
So yeah, go ahead, Kushal.
yeah. Hi, Shravan.
Hey, man.
So I had one general thought, like, so in terms of dating apps, the dating apps which have been like dominating in the world right now, like Tinder, Bumble, and the likes of it. So the meaning of dating that these, like the perception of dating that these apps have created, at least in the Indian user base, is very different from the kind of dating that you were talking about. So if so the market that exists right now is not even the market that Mingout is entering. For example, Mingout is creating a market of its own.
Got it.
So do you think like this is a kind of a product that to be successful in the market, um, apart from like the making the product better and the whole experience better, it's also about educating the people about what kind of dating this app is about. So it's completely diverting from the way. So Tinder, Bumble have their own audiences, and Mingout is trying to uh, target a different kind of audience, or else a different mindset of the same audience maybe. So do you think that education is a big part of, should be a big part of strategy for an app like Mingout, like market education, or not education in terms, not like teaching people how to date exactly, but teaching people about what kind of dating Mingout is about?
See, first of all, I need to ask you a reverse question. What exactly do you mean by that Indian audience के दिमाग में dating अलग है और
Uh,
foreign
so for example, like when I read about Tinder, how Tinder started. So Tinder started out in US, and उन्होंने college uh, sororities and वहाँ सब, like it started out over there, and it wasn't about long-term dating or anything, but it was mostly about hookups only. So that was that was a popular culture over there at that time. So that's how the app started, and then when it has evolved to some extent till now. But then when the app entered in India, they have not created a different app for India's market. So they brought the same app for the Indian audience as well. And the culture difference, or in terms of the way people look at dating and relationships, is quite different from how it happens in India on a larger scale. काफी जगह पे there is similar thought, but on a larger scale it's quite different. So
so just to cut you out,
yeah,
do you mean in India dating is a precursor of getting into a long-term relationship? Is
yeah,
that what you
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Got it. See, I got your question now. What you're trying to put across, that there is an element of casual dating where sex is not tabooed. That is there. And in India, it is something that by design, people think that it should only happen. Earlier, it was marriage. Now it should have, at least I should have a significantly long-term relationship where I see a future with that
Yeah.
person, and then only I go. Understood. Got your point. See, the point that I'm trying to ascertain here, right, is that it might be the frequency or the monetization structure that might be very different. That's why India में शादी.com बहुत पॉपुलर है, dating पॉपुलर नहीं है उतना. ये सच्चाई है, right? most people who get into the dating funnel, even in India, are looking for casual hookups. Trust me, they are. उनको मिलते नहीं है, वो अलग question है. वो question is a separate problem. It's a supply side problem. क्योंकि at least in this mindset of a woman in India, it is by design put it like that, excluding a few places. Maybe तुम कोलकाता चले जाओगे जहाँ पे थोड़ा ओपन कल्चर है, या मतलब तुम बैंगलोर चले जाओगे, या टियर 3 cities में, टियर 1 cities में चले जाओगे जहाँ थोड़ा ओपन कल्चर है, which is fair, which is whatever, where sex is not tabooed that much. The point that at least the first thing, the challenge would be the reusage of that user, the re-engagement of that user. But the primary problem is still the same. Do I find someone who effectively I can spend some amount of time with, right? Because तुम्हारे लिए massive value unlock वहीं पे है जहां पे तुम casual relationships बना सकते हो. Massive value unlock वहीं पे है.
In terms of monetization.
Yes, massive value unlock तुम्हारे नहीं, monetization भी नहीं, even in terms of engagement.
Okay.
Massive value unlock. देखो, dating culture होना चाहिए. The problem, unfortunately, because we don't have a dating culture, I'll give you one very interesting statistic. The interesting statistic is that in India, 97 or 98% of marriages generally are bound by compromise. People stay together because किसी के बच्चे हो गए, किसी को बोला कि यार कि नहीं यार अब दोनों कमा रहे हैं तो घर चलेगा इस, and it is a social stigma that people don't separate.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate part is, even before making that marriage choice, you're not making choices based on understanding. You're making choices on physical variables. अरे बंदा दिखता कितना अच्छा है, कमाता कितना अच्छा है, बंदी कितनी अच्छी दिखती है, कितना अच्छा कमाती है, ये सारे, या फैमिलीज कितने अलाइंड है, बंदे कितने अलाइंड है वो तो किसी ने पूछा ही नहीं, वो तो कोई पूछ भी नहीं रहा. So the point that I'm trying to put across is कि अगर तुम वहां पे massive value unlock कर सकते हो, और वहां पे education बहुत काम करता है. Yes, if I come in, what should be the right expectation from a date, right?
Yeah.
What should be my behavior on a date, and what exactly I'm looking for? That is something that has to, but that doesn't have to be a separate booklet. It has to be part of the experience itself. Like for example, I am uploading a photo, an obscene photo. For example, मैं एकदम शर्ट वर्ट खोल के एकदम खड़ा हूँ भगवान सलमान खान की तरह. That may not be appealing to a lot of people. That has to be told by the app itself. Yeah, this is something that we don't recommend. We do recommend. How do you improve your profile? How do you improve genuinity or authenticity in the profile so that you get the right kind of interactions? Right?
Also, like you could set your expectations, and based on your expectation, the app recommends.
वो तो होता ही है, but I think it's through the experience that you get more. So it's the depth of data points that is very important. If I just put preferences कि मुझे ये चाहिए, इंसान की, देखो मैं तुम्हें एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूँ. प्रोडक्ट मैनेजमेंट में एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग थ्योरी है. इफ यू गो टू ए पर्सन एंड इफ आई टुडे आस्क यू व्हाट काइंड ऑफ कार डू यू लाइक, तुम मुझे 3-4 चीजें ही बताओगे, और मोस्ट पीपल विल टेल मी 3-4 थिंग्स ओनली. माइलेज अच्छी होनी चाहिए, दिखनी अच्छी चाहिए, ये फीचर होना चाहिए, ये 4 चीजें, राइट? अब इफ आई रिवर्स द इक्वेशन फॉर यू, इफ आई ब्रिंग द कार टू यू and you sit in the car and then tell you what do you like about this, what do you do, तुम मेरे को 50 चीजें बता दोगे. यार ये कलर अच्छा नहीं है, ये प्रॉब्लम खराब है, ये ठीक नहीं है. So people, when they are given ambiguous structures, right, they'll come up with very few replies, 5, 6, 7 replies. But while they are through the experience, right, then if you give them nudges at the right point, तभी तो games का culture क्यों था, games क्यों बनाई जाती है sequential, क्योंकि जब तक तुम एक लेवल को क्रॉस नहीं कर रहे तुम दूसरे लेवल पे नहीं जा सकते. That is how dating as an experience should also evolve, and Mingout is rightly placed there because activities are placed that way, right? Now it's a hard challenge, but if they do that, they will be able to solve the biggest problem. The biggest problem is curation. अगर तुमने वो सॉल्व कर दिया ना तो तुमने गेम चेंज कर दी इस इंडस्ट्री में. सप्लाई तो, अगर क्यूरेशन सॉल्व हो गया ना, सप्लाई अपने आप आ जाएगी. सप्लाई, क्योंकि जब लोगों को ये पता लग जाएगा कि यहाँ पे तुम्हें अच्छे पार्टनर्स मिल रहे हैं या तुम्हें अच्छा बंदा मिल रहा है, तो लोग अपने आप एसोसिएट करेंगे. योर एक्विजिशन प्रॉब्लम विल बी सॉल्व्ड बाय डिजाइन.
Like one difference between like a Tinder and Mingout could be the data points that the app collects and shows about profile. So Tinder में for example data points बहुत ही कम है, and it's mostly focused on images. And on the other hand, app like Bumble or Mingout too, so they focus more on data points about how can they get to know more about you. So through your choices, you are able to show your personality better to the other people. So social capital.
So you have to put an effort to be authentic. If you can
Yeah.
do that, then you will find someone authentic. That's the thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kushal, for your question. And I think so that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, like I think so we are almost at the end of the session. But before that, I'd like to call Harshveer on stage. And like, if we can have Harshveer. Yes. 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 I think so. Please mute from here else echo. Hoga. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, till Harshir comes, what did you think about the session? How were the questions? How did
It was crazy, man.
I hope you are less tired now after
I'm
retiring
very,
day.
very less tired. And any which ways, I'm going to now create an account and Mingout and figure out कि मेरे को इस बार कोई date अच्छी मिल जाए कि नहीं मिले. But any which ways, yeah. It was fun, man. It was very fun.
Thank you. Harshir, yeah, you are on stage.
ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. We'll figure it. Yeah. Maybe we do that. We can go ahead by 5 minutes also. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Where is A? ऐसे तो मुझे ए करके ना मुझे मेरे ऑफिस में बुलाता है. अबे ए इधर आ जा भाई.
If
Yeah,
you
man.
could switch on your camera and mic. Hi, Atishay. It's Atishay. Uh, Atishay, are you able? Atishay, are you able to? If you could put in chat, if you're able to unmute or. Oh, okay. So if you would like to ask that question, Harshi. We trust you.
As a gift, so definitely it makes sense. A lot of sense. कि अगर तुम किसी को see if you have this integration that you have already started a conversation and you want to make like some sort of a thing and you can अगर तुम gifting integration बना दो यार कि I can send a gift, right? That also is a challenge कि अगर बहुत लोग घर पे रह रहे हैं ना और रात में तुमने किसी को गिफ्ट भिजवा दिया तो सबसे पहले तो उसके पापा बोलेंगे बेटा ये कौन बंदा है जो तुम्हें रात में 11 बजे आइसक्रीम भिजा रहा है. तो ये चैलेंज हो सकता है. बट इन जनरल इफ यू कैन टेक इट यू कैन स्टिल सॉल्व दैट. आई टेल यू हाउ यू सॉल्व इट. You typically take the location of the person, right? And you ask this in the onboarding structure, are you bachelor? Do you stay with friends? Do you things like that, right? And you figure that out and you build a very strong gifting integration. And if you can do that, wow, that will be killer. तुम मतलब इम्प्रेस कर दोगे अगले बंदे को और उसमें उसमें सिर्फ फूड नहीं होगा, उसमें फ्लावर्स भी हो सकते हैं, उसके अंदर बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें हो सकती हैं. यू कैन कुछ भी हो सकता है. और यू कैन ऑल्सो सेंड सम सॉर्ट ऑफ अ subscription or something like that कि मैंने तुम्हारे लिए ले लिया, this is a Myntra subscription for you, which in which you can buy मतलब kurtis and whatever and whatnot. All of those things can be there, and it can have a myriad of things. It makes that chatting experience special. Yeah.
I guess Atishay, if you like, are you satisfied with your answer? You can unmute and like interact. It's your question at the end. Achha, no, wait. You also have a separate question, right? You can ask.
Hi guys, hi Shravan, hi Shri. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
So I just want, so I had met one of the co-founders Navdeep last week, and he mentioned this problem statement that a lot of women have this security or safety issue when they come onto a dating app.
Yep.
So that is a problem solution that I was looking at, and like I was thinking what we can do, and that is why I had suggested that Aadhaar-based verification that you talked about in the starting, right?
Yeah.
So for that only, I was thinking that do you think would that make an impact just in the sense of safety issues, that perception that women have, firstly. Secondly, can we look at doing it at an optional, like an optional thing, not hampering the current flow, just an optional thing where a customer can get verified, can get a blue tick, and that is also brings up the aspirational value, and that brings up the value of the profile of the user in terms of women's minds. If I have two matches, one is unverified, one is verified.
Yeah.
So I think a woman would prefer a verified user because she knows there is some factor, safety issue.
Yeah. See, honestly speaking, safety is not something that you can measure in percentages. Yeah. It's unfortunately like that. Like, it's one mishap in an Uber and you get a huge backlash, right? So the point that you have to understand is that it's not about verification from the person's side. Like, I'll give you a very simple example. छोड़ दे. मान ले मैंने आधार भी कर दिया, सब कुछ कर दिया. What my intent as a person is, how do you know? How do you know? I might be violent. I go on a date, I slap you for some reason. So the point that what you have to solve it is Aadhaar-based authentication can solve the problem of scam. It will not solve the problem of safety. These are two different problems. Very different problems. Scam solve हो सकता है उसमें कि मेरे पैसे नहीं खा गया कोई. कि कोई बंदा, a lot of dating apps, there is a lot of sexual services that people sell. होता है भाई, ये सच्चाई है, right? And कि I will date, you spend $1,000, $100, whatever and whatnot, right? ये चीजें eliminate हो सकती हैं. With safety cannot be solved through Aadhaar-based verification or a blue tick or whatever. Safety एक ही तरीके से measure. Safety is a function of your own intent and your own expectation, your own judgment, right? सेफ्टी उसका एक्सपेक्टेशन होता है. तो उसके लिए तुम्हें क्या करना पड़ेगा कि यार आई वांट टू एम्पावर द वीकर और द वीकर साइड ऑफ सप्लाई इन सम वे, थ्रू विच दे कैन मेक बेटर जजमेंट कॉल्स. लाइक मैं तुमसे इसका ही पैरेलल देता हूं. यू हैव टू इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेजेस, राइट? हाउ डू यू डिसाइड विच वन टू ज्वाइन? 100% एश्योरेंस कहीं पे नहीं है. The only way that you decide is you look at placements, you look at the kind of people, you look at the infrastructure. Then also it's your call only, right? So spam की problem, scam की problem can be solved. Safety is a separate problem. उसको solve करना hard है. वो solve भी कर दी तो वो बहुत अच्छी बात है. बम्बल ने कोशिश की थी कि the first message has to be sent by the girl itself. Which is like a very rudimentary way of doing it in some way or some whatever and whatnot. There can be another ways to do it. So I think that is how you should kind of look at it. Yeah. If you want to solve spam and scam, yes, verification as a structure works, but safety doesn't. Yeah.
So, but in this, just one more question. So, but there is this repercussion thing in the user's mind, right? That if I have his address details, if his identity is with me, if he does something, there might be repercussions. So that would prevent, like how Ola and Uber solve it, right? Because driver का उनके पास details है.
सही बात है, agreed. मैं बिल्कुल agree करता हूँ कि उस चीज पे वो बात, I agree to what you're saying कि if I have verification or KYC with that person, but what are you trying to tell me? You're trying to tell me कि सेफ्टी में कोई रिएक्टिव नहीं देखता है, प्रोएक्टिव देखते हैं सेफ्टी, रिएक्टिव नहीं होती. मतलब लेट मी पुट इट दिस वे, यू गो ऑन अ डेट और तेरे को पता, मैं तेरे को बोलता हूँ कि भाई अगर तेरे को किसी ने मारा ना तो तेरे लिए मैं पुलिस बुला दूंगा. भाई तुझे पढ़ चुकी है, उसके बाद में पुलिस आएगी. दैट माइट बी अ रिएक्टिव मेजर दैट यू आर सेइंग दैट कि आई विल बी एबल टू कीप माई सेल्फ सेफ. The point is empower the user proactively to make the right choices. Keep it as a reactive measure, which is fine. It's not going to solve safety. It's not going to lessen the number of incidents. It's not. Because तुम इंटेंट के टाइम पे जब तुम किसी डेटिंग ऐप पे किसी बंदे से बात कर रहे हो ना, तुम तो ये द फर्स्ट थिंग, पीपल आर जनरली ऑल्ट्रुइस्टिक, दे थिंक दैट द पर्सन इज गुड, तभी मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, राइट. दैट्स द फर्स्ट इंटेंट, राइट. तुम ये लेके नहीं चलते कि यार कि पहले मेरे को स्केप्टिकल होना है कि नहीं यार ये बंदा सही है नहीं है कि नहीं है. हाँ, इट माइट सॉल्व टू अ सर्टेन एक्सटेंट, लाइक इट माइट फील कि हाँ यार ये स्लाइटली रिचर प्रोफाइल है, बट दैट डजंट मीन कि द people who are verified versus the people who are not verified, the percentage of incidents will be less. It's not like that. It's ऐसा नहीं होगा. हाँ, स्कैम सॉल्व हो जाएगा अगर तुम्हारे पास ऐसी एक लार्ज सेट ऑफ प्रोफाइल्स है जो कि अनवेरिफाइड है, तो तुम ये बोल ही नहीं रहे वो बंदा है या बंदी है, तो तुम्हें पता ही नहीं है, तो तुम उसको सरफेस ही नहीं करोगे. You will not surface those profiles. You would say नहीं यार हम सरफेस ही नहीं करना चाहते. But if you take a statistically valid set in both the scenarios, you're not addressing the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is how do you make better decisions, right? You might be able to solve कि हाँ यार मैं फेक प्रोफाइल्स को एलिमिनेट कर दूंगा कि यार कि तुम गलत बंदे के साथ ही नहीं जा रहे हो, वो मैंने सॉल्व कर दिया. बट वो स्कैम के अंदर आता है, स्पैम के अंदर आता है कि मैं उस चीज को मैंने एक टियर 3 एक लॉन्ग टेल सेगमेंट को ही हटा दिया. दैट्स द थिंग.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks a lot.
Anyways, I think so the time is almost like we took more than more than we requested for. There are still few questions. I see. We are really sorry. The discussions go like this and they are very engaging, and like Shravan being the speaker, like his depth of knowledge and his insights definitely takes longer. But thank you so much, Shravan. It was so much fun. Like this is like the highlight of my week, like this 1 hour. And
Same here. I hope I get a date on Mingout now.
yes, back end team, please put
Please.
in all your efforts.
But
But yeah, thank you everyone for joining in, and we will be having more of these sessions, such sessions. This is our first initiative as a backbencher, and we'll be having more such speakers and guests tomorrow on Friday, on April Fool's Day. If you like to see my shakal, I am hosting an oversharing space where we will discuss embarrassing stories. So if interested, you can join in that as well. And yeah, happy dating. Let's put back date into dating and disrupt dating market. So thank you
Cool, guys.
everyone. Hope you have a great night.
Pleasure meeting all of you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, Ashwin. Okay, so see, my point was that there should be multiple matches, no? If there is just one, everyone will leave.